Hi, myself Dr. Avinash Trivedi, professor in Department of Computer Science and Engineering. Today we are going to discuss one very important topic of Java programming, use of final keyword. So final keyword is very much interesting keyword that is basically used to give very specific results in programming. And this final word is very much important. Final keyword, where we can use the keywords and how we get benefit of this. The final keyword in Java is used to restrict the user. The Java final keywords can be used in many contexts. So if we are not mentioning final keyword before any method or any class or any variables, then there is free access of that resource. But we can use final keyword with variable, with method, and with class. And why we use this? We use final keyword to restrict our user to access it, to modify it. So as we say, it is final. It means it is now final. You will not be able to change anything. So for that kind of work, we use final keyword. So what it does is it stop value change, stop method overriding, stop inheritance. These three things are done with the help of final keyword. So the final keyword can be applied with the variable, a final variable that have no values. It is called blank final variable or uninitialized final variable. So while declaring any variable, we must initialize that. And if we are not initializing that value, then what we say? We say that is blank final variable. So in simple manner, we cannot initialize. For that, we will take help of means constructor. It can be initialized in the constructor only. Once you have not initialized any variable while declaring, then only constructor can help in initializing the value. The blank final value variable can be static also, which will be initialized in the static block only. And what is meaning of the statement? If you have mentioned static keyword also before any variable name, then that variable will be initialized in static block if you have not initialized at the time of creation. So in this program we can see Java final variable. It means we are mentioning final keyword before variable name. So in this program, there is one class, a bike 9, and there is one instance variable that is speed limit equal 90, and before its type, that is integer type, we are mentioning final keyword. And once we mention final keyword here, now you are restricting anyone to change this instance variable value. Now it is fixed. There is one method in this class, that is run method, and it is of having void return type. It is not returning any type. In this method, you are going to change instance variable value. So speed limit is an instance variable of class bike 9, and in your run method you are going to change its value from 90 to 400. You are using main method. In main method you are creating one object, and once you call run method with the help of created object, it gives compile time error. Why you are getting compile time error? Because once you have declared any variable as a final variable, then you are not able to change any instance variable value. So speed limit value will be 90 and you are not able to write, but in your method you have mentioned it, so it will give compile time error. So it is very clear, once you mention final keyword before any variable, then that will not change in your program. Let's see in this method, Java final method. What is there? There is one bike class and it has one run method. And before run method, we have mentioned final keyword. And say some other class, Honda extends bike. It means Honda class is inheriting bike class. And we are using run method here, and we are changing the definition of run method. So run method is in parent class also, super class also, and child class also. And in child class we are going to modify the definition of the method. And what happens here in this program, after creating object and calling method, you get compile time error. Why we are getting compile time error? Because once you are calling run method, and in child class run method has been modified, so modification of method is not final once you have mentioned it as final method. So again, like your instance variable change, you will get the same kind of error, that is compile time error. So it is very clear, when you mention any method as a final method, then you cannot change your method in your program. Similarly, while mentioning any class as a final class, you will take a very good supposition that once you have created any class as a final class, you cannot inherit that. So in this example, we see a class bike is a final class, and when another class, say Honda 1, is extending bike class, it means inheriting that class. So what we are getting here, we are getting compile time error. So we cannot inherit any final class. So sometimes we are using restrictions so that only authorized person can use a particular resource, or authorized person can change any values. For this, these kind of keywords are very helpful. Final method is inherited, but you cannot override. What is meaning of override? It means methods having the same signatures, same name, same number of parameters are overridden in child method. But once you are mentioning any method as a final method, then overriding is not possible in inheritance. Like in bike class, there is one method run that is final, and you will not be able to change its output. Say there is one statement, system.out.println running. So this method is final method. And when a simple class Honda 2 is inheriting this bike class, and you are creating object, and with the help of object you are calling run method, you can call that method. There is no problem, but you cannot modify final method. So inheritance of final method is possible, but we cannot modify definition. Blank or uninitialized final variable. Like in this class student, there are two variables, say ID and name. We have just declared it, but we are not initializing these two values. So these are simple instance variable. But third variable, say PAN card number, it is final. So here you are declaring third variable and you are not initializing, then its further initialization is not possible with these simple methods or simple manner. You need to initialize this variable which is final in constructor only. We can understand with the help of this program. In bike 10 class, there is final instance variable, that is speed limit. We have declared it and mentioned it as final, but we have not initialized this. We have not initialized with any value. In method bike 10, see, it's not a simple method, it's a constructor. And in the constructor, we are writing instance variable name equal some value. And in method, we are printing it. And once we are creating object and calling constructor, then we get successful output, that is 70. If you not mention in constructor, then you will get error message. So if you mention any instance variable as final, then only you can initialize at the time of creation, or you can initialize in constructor. And if you are not mentioning any value, that is known as blank or uninitialized final variable. And if you are writing a static word also before final instance variable, then you need to use a static block to initialize that variable. Simple in constructor you cannot initialize, but you need to write a static block. So first there is a one class, say A, and in class A you are mentioning one instance variable, that is data. It is of integer type, final keyword has been added, and you have mentioned static keyword. So instance variable is static as well as final. So static keywords means instance variable can initialize at declaration time. Otherwise you need to take help of static block. In static block we are initializing instance variable data with value 50 and it will work. Say final parameters means when you are using any method and mentioning any parameter as final, then modification is not possible. Like in this example we can see there is one class, say bike 11, and in this class there is one method int cube, and it has one parameter, say n, and that is final. And in this method, whatever value of n is you are receiving, you are modifying it and multiplying with this with its 3 times, that is n cube. So what happens we will see here. In next line we are creating object, and once after creating object you are calling this method. So what output you are getting? You are getting compile time error. Why you are getting compile time error? Because your parameter is final. So if you are transferring 5 to it, then it can calculate, but modification is not possible. You cannot change the value of n. So compile time error comes. So while mentioning, while restricting your caller, you can put final as a keyword before parameter. So final is very useful keyword in mentioning or restricting any user, and restrictions can be applied in variable, in method, as well as in class. So to finalize final any value, you can use final keyword and restrict your user for unauthorized access. And the question is whether we declare a constructor final. No, because constructor is never inherited. Thank you.